Straight year, that title shootout took place on a temporary circuit in Del Mar, California. Brabham needed only to finish in the top 10 to clinch the crown. Newly crowned IndyCar champion Al Unser Jr. stole the spotlight by taking the pole in a guest driving role with the Spice team. But when teammate Jay Cochran was squeezed into the wall while leading, Little Al's race was over before it ever began. The resulting yellow flag proved to be the turning point in the race. While the rest of the field stayed out, the Toyota team called their cars in and loaded enough fuel to go the rest of the distance non-stop. As succeeding leaders stopped for fuel during green flag racing, Juan Manuel Fagio steadily moved to the front. Meanwhile, Brabham and Robinson, despite the best efforts of IMSA's fastest pit crew, suffered pit problems and dropped back to 5th and 6th places. On the last lap, Davy Jones and John Paul Jr. scuffled over 2nd place, with Jones coming out ahead. But there was no catching Fangio, who claimed his 4th win of the season for Dan Gurney's team, while Geoff Brabham cruised home as IMSA champion.
Yeah, it really feels great. You know, the opportunity to win 3 championships in a row don't come around very often. And, you know, I had the opportunity today, and thankfully I managed to keep it off the walls just and bring it home.
The 1990 Camel GT campaign was a tour de force for Nissan once again, and for driver Geoff Brabham, who clinched his 3rd straight championship. David, the guy just keeps getting better and better.
He certainly does, Bob. Ever since he's been in IMSA, he's looked strong, and I think it's given him great confidence, and Geoff Brabham is definitely now driving better than he's ever driven before in his life. But it's not just Geoff, it's the whole team. Cass Castner, who's the team supremo, is a very strong leader, and of course Don Devendorf's a great engineer and designer, right down to the lowliest member of the team. It's what the McLaren people keep saying in Formula One, it's a package, and Nissan certainly has got the package at the moment.
And we'll be back in a moment to interview our new champion, Geoff Brabham. Stay with us.
Well, it's a great feeling. You know, as you know, winning championships, you know, is hard to do, and have the opportunity to come here and win 3 championships is something I certainly didn't think was going to happen. And I think, you know, in the years go by, you look back and say, you know, I not only did something good for 1 race, I did it good for 3 years, and it's just a great feeling.
Those 3 years of success produced 24 race victories, 4th on the all-time Camel GT winners list. But Brabham harbors no illusions about overtaking the series' all-time winningest driver, the late Al Holbert.
I really just take 1 race at a time. You know, we've come off an extremely successful 3 years, but for me the most important thing is next year. So we're going to have to go and do a lot of testing and get ourselves ready for next year and take 1 race at a time, and hopefully we'll win some more races.
Despite all his success, there are mountains Brabham still hopes to climb in sports cars, and one ultimate racing goal.
I've got some things I'd like to do. One is I'd like to win a 24-hour race. I think we have a good chance going to Daytona, and hopefully we'll go to Le Mans again next year. And obviously the big granddaddy of them all for me is the Indianapolis 500, and you know, I think I have an opportunity to go back and run there again next year. And you know, I think if I'm still racing in 10 years' time and still getting paid for it, I'll consider my career a success.
Of course, there were other heroes in 1990 besides our new champion, none more so than Juan Manuel Fagio II of Argentina, nephew of the legendary 5-time Formula One world champion, but now a star in his own right.
IMSA faithful have had a special treat in 1990 as a legendary racing name found his way into competition. The name was Fangio, and yes, it was the same one with the Argentinian heritage. Toyota's Juan Manuel Fagio II, nephew of Juan M. Fangio, made his presence known in a hurry. His performance lived up to the high expectations that went along with the name he inherited 33 years ago.
To make it short, I was having difficulties when I was born, and the doctor asked to my father, to my family, to put me the same name. So actually, that is the story. My family called to my uncle in Europe to know what he thought about it, and he was very glad, and that is the reason why I have the same name.
Being the namesake of Juan Manuel Fangio, you'd think there'd be added pressure when behind the wheel. But Fangio doesn't agree.
My uncle was telling something that is a big truth. When you are inside of the car, you don't think who you are. You are just concentrate trying to do what you are doing the best you can. And also, for example, imagine that I have the same last name. I was having the same last name all my life. So for me, it's something completely natural, no? It's only when you think, when you start to see movies, or when you go, for example, to other countries and you see the people around himself, and when you realize about his career and what he did.
Juan says even if racing wasn't in his blood, he'd still be a race car driver.
I was always very close with the risk and the speed. I like the speed. To be close with my uncle, it was very good for me to find out that through the racing cars, I was having the best feeling. Maybe, you know, without being close to a race car driver, I was doing something else, like snow ski, but always something related with the speed.
There are benefits to having an uncle who is a legend, including being around his racing philosophy.
He said it's very important always to try to be the best. Put all you have, but you don't must to believe that you are the best. Sometimes somebody wins some races, they start to think that, okay, now I'm the best because I'm winning races. That is not good. You must try to be the best, but never believe that you are.
For Juan Manuel Fagio II, it looks like he'll live up to that philosophy.
And that brings us to the end of our review of the Camel GT season 1990. Despite the presence of a Nissan driver atop the championship for the third straight year, it was certainly one of the most competitive in many seasons. David Hobbs, you have driven in and called these races since the series began. 1991, with some changes, should be even better.
Well, I think so, Bob. The biggest change, of course, is that the race format is being reduced to only 2 hours. And I think this is going to allow most of the competitive teams to do what Nissan did this year and really only have one driver per car. So this makes them a stronger combination for the deal. Porsche should be back next year. The World Championship rules are too strongly skewed against them, and I think we're going to see a lot of 962s in this series next year. And of course, James Weaver in the Rob Dyson car showed that that is still a winner. Toyota's going to be very strong. And I think, I've said this before, that one of those big block American engine cars is going to come good, especially on all these little tight street circuits we have so many of in IMSA. But a good year coming up in 1991.
And of course, Nissan is not about to lie down. It should be a great season, and we hope you'll join us for it here on ESPN. For David Hobbs, I'm Bob Varsha. Thanks for being with us. So long, everyone.